I'm going to break down why I chose Islam. I'm going to have a hard time articulating this because it's kind of it's been in my whole life. I've been seeking something, and I still don't think I've found it yet. But I think on the spectrum of knowing what to do, I think Islam has made up a 60% of the gap I was missing. So I'm going to break this down into genuinely, it could be 100 episodes I have to make on this, because there's no way I can make one video telling you why I chose Islam, because it would either be 4 weeks long or it would be incredibly boring. And there's always, I try not to think about things before I take action. I try and just take action when an idea comes into my head. When coming up with this idea and explaining why I chose Islam, why I want to do this video, because I think it will actually help young people who are my demographic, my age range, solve problems they had in their life. I don't think about things before I do them. I typically just go for it, because if you do, you sit and think about what you're going to say, then you think about what you should say, what you shouldn't say, how you're going to say it, and you mentally masturbate until you don't take action. So I'm going to give you a brief history as to why I chose Islam, a brief history as to my life and why I'm so clear and concise on my decision. So my entire life, I don't know if there's something I have that other people don't. I don't believe that I do. But what I have noticed as a congruent pattern in my life is that a lot of people tend to not give a shit or care about things that I just can't let fly over my head. My entire life and the life of people around me, young males and women in the West, is one that is degenerate and disgusting, and I've never signed off on it. There was times when I was young where I would drink, I would party. I haven't done it in years, and and I'm 21, and I certainly could, but I don't. My life has been a bundle of lies, to be fair. What my life has been is not been knowing what I should do. I always knew what I should do, but there's always been temptations and desires amplified like no other generation before. We'll get into this. Pulling on you, weights on your ankles that stop you from flying. I'll give you an example. If you were and this is the one that I've struggled with, it's never been drugs, it's never been alcohol, it's never been wrath, it's never been any other temptation you can have. My one has always been, without a doubt, lust for women. And I've struggled with that all my life, to be fair. And I don't think it's because it's not because I have bad intentions. It's just because I have a deep conscience, and I love. And if you were a lustful guy back in the day, you had to go out and find a woman who would fornicate and who would put her passions over what was right. And that was difficult. Now, when you're 9 years old, you have unlimited access to internet pornography. And having that access, it rewired my brain. I got addicted to it. I only broke it very recently. It's so hard to beat because it's everywhere and it's completely accessible. And I thought, well, this is hell. I'm now attracting women who are haram into my life. My brain is wired in a haram way, and all my relationships were falling apart because of how my brain was wired and the type of woman I was attracting. And I looked around me and I thought, how does nobody care that a 9-year-old boy, or any age nowadays, as soon as a boy hits puberty or he starts getting interested in girls, there's unlimited pornography on the internet that he will enslave himself with, and no one cares. And I looked around and I thought, why is no one rallying up to make this illegal? I'm actually writing a book on this, because what I've realised is it's not what you do nowadays, it's what you don't do that makes you the man that you will become. You can there's so many opportunities to make money, to be fruitful and prosper, but there's so many traps in your way that will stop you. And I looked around and I seen the only countries where pornography was illegal was in Muslim countries. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. When I was younger, I was getting hit with the Islam propaganda, where it was the Muslim terrorist psyop and all that stuff. And I kind of realized, well, the enemy of my enemy, the same people who are giving me pornos for free, are the same people telling me that Muslims are terrorists. And then you go, why would I believe a liar? And then you look into why the Afghanistan war happened and everything. And I looked around and I thought, oh, I see what's going on. It's a trick. My life now is, okay, I get into debt because we live in a world with fiat currency, which is just money backed by nothing that can be printed into oblivion. So I can't buy a house. If I want a car, I have to get it on finance, which is riba, which is haram. And I looked around and I saw, oh, so all the Muslim countries that were getting attacked in war was because they didn't do riba, they didn't have fiat currency, and they didn't do interest loans. And I thought, okay, well, there's another thing. So they don't do porn, they don't do usury and riba. And I thought, okay, well, what's going on here? Cycle along, and I've started to, my life started to get better and better and better. And I joined a network of men. It's one of these networks where it's men looking to improve their life. I'll give you a hint, and you can probably guess who runs the network. It was very expensive to join, and it's from arguably the most famous man in the world, who's recently just reverted to Islam. You can kind of guess who I'm talking about. And in that group, we have meetups. And a lot of the people in there, they're very wealthy, they're very successful men, and a lot of them are Muslim. And I was speaking to them, I said, I want to do amazing things, but it just feels like there's no woman I can love. There's too much temptation. I have no friends, because all my friends want to do is go drink and take drugs and put themselves into this state of hell. And then they started telling me about Islam. So this sequence of videos is going to go on forever probably, because there is no way I could make a concise video as to why I single-handedly chose Islam. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the pillars that made me decide on Islam. If I can give one word that would describe why, it would be laws. I think theology, I'm not going to delve into the theology of Islam, but the laws and the teachings are as clear as day. They make there's a part of my heart where they ring true, and it's so obvious. When I was looking at my life and I went, I'm going to be a man, I'm going to sleep with loads of different women, I'm going to be addicted to porn, I'm going to drink alcohol at the weekend, I'm going to work a job to pay off loans for a house and a car, I'm probably going to get divorced, my sons and my daughters, if I have any, because abortion in the West is completely fine because of fornication. I thought, okay, well, that's not happening. And I started to learn about Islam, and it became very clear to me. I went, oh, this is the way to go. Originally, and I'll be honest with you, just as an ethnic thing, I would say, I was instantly pulled more towards Christianity. And I did a lot. Islam was not something I just selected. I did a lot and a lot and a lot and a lot of research into this. I'll give you an example. I didn't just go, oh, well, I'm going to choose Islam because I'm going to choose Islam. I did a lot of research into why I was choosing Islam. Originally, I went for Christianity. I've got a King James Bible. I read that. There's 100 different translations of the Bible, and a lot of it's just been messed with. I then bought all the banned books from the Bible. So the church institutions banned 75 different books from the Bible. And I thought, okay, well, that doesn't make much sense either. And then I looked at the Quran. One book hasn't been touched for thousands of years. All Muslims recite it. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe it's a tradition that all Muslim children recite it by I can't remember the age it is, so forgive me. But I know that there's a proactive learning. It's not just you go into a church, you drink the wine, you eat the bread, you say other people are bad because they don't believe the same things you believe, and then you go, and if you watch pornography, or you fornicate with a woman, or you drink alcohol, or whatever, or you take a loan with riba or usury, you're forgiven because Christ died for you. I don't believe that. I don't buy it at all. I think that's just offloading your responsibility. And then when I seen how strict Muslims were with Ramadan, how proactive they were, and the fact that there's no pornography in Islamic countries, there's no usury to the point where they will fight to defend it. So I'm gonna, in this sequence of videos, I'm gonna take my I'll probably say top 10 reasons that I chose Islam, and it will take a while. And I know this video might have been slightly boring, but I'm prefacing the content I'm going to push out. I'm going to talk about how I feel being a young white guy in Europe it's not a normal thing for a guy like me to revert to Islam, and how I'm dealing with that, how it's being interpreted by friends and family. I'm going to talk about my shahada and how amazing that was, and how once I spoke my shahada, there was about 80 people in the mosque at the time. I think every single one of them waited and they gave me a hug, and they praised me and comforted me. They didn't have any reason to do that. Their lives would have been better nor worse had they have done that or not, and yet they still decided to do it. And that community, that brotherhood, is something I've always seeked as well. So I'm going to break this down into 10 different videos. I'm going to talk about the main reasons I chose Islam, the people I've met along the way, how I'm adapting to life as a Muslim now. It'll be interesting. I know this video might not have been what people were seeking, because it's an interesting story. You don't see. I know there's a couple guys nowadays, and I'm speaking back and forth with them who are like me, young white males in the UK who are reverting to Islam, when all we've been told to do is to fornicate with women, take drugs, listen to music all day. Music is haram. I've always knew that music was a scam. I've always knew that modern day music was a psyop. When you look at Cardi B and what she's managed to get women to become, if you went up to a woman 20 years ago and said, you're going to abort your babies and you're going to be a whore, they would go, no, I'm not. But if you put the nice beat over it, they can insert the programming. And I was speaking back and forth with my Muslim friends, and they said music is haram. We don't do music, it takes you off the path. And I thought, well, there you go. So I'm going to break this down into a bunch of different videos. I'm going to share the past, the main reasons I decided, the present, how things are going, and what I'm anticipating for the future. And I hope people can give me advice, because I have no bad intentions. I'm not here to subvert. I genuinely want to do good. And if people could help me along the journey, that would be greatly appreciated. Right, thank you very much for listening. I will post my next video as soon as I can.